Here we are on That's a Tap. I'm with DJ. I'm CT. We're here to talk boxing tonight. DJ, how are we doing?
Yeah, man, we're good. We're good. We've been promising a boxing episode, and guess what? Here we are, right off the back of an electric super middleweight fight, man. I mean, super excited to talk boxing. We obviously had a big UFC card as well, San Antonio, but we'll talk about that in our next episode. But we want to focus on boxing here. Yeah, man, CT, how have you been? What's news with you?
Yeah, enjoying myself like always. Really
Yeah,
glad to catch up and talk about boxing because we've been promising to deliver this ep for a minute, and it's a
yeah,
great time because
yeah,
did you see the
absolutely.
fight on the weekend with Benavidez, Caleb Plant?
CT, I did, and rightfully you reminded me, obviously, because shuttling between UFC and boxing, you sometimes get similar names. So you rightfully reminded me it's not Joe Benavidez who, who fought in the flyweight division in the UFC, but it's David Benavidez, the super middleweight interim champion. Okay, man, look, absolutely, it was a banger of a fight. I was hyped up for this fight from the moment that it was announced. I really like Caleb Plant. I like the his fighting style. I like his mentality. I like what he brings to the table in terms of boxing. Like in a world where we live, where fighters are very concerned about their records. His mentality is always about fighting the best, and that's what it was. The result we got on Sunday on Showtime pay per view was that mentality of the best fight the best, and this is what it was. So David Benavidez, who's a world champion, undefeated, put his all on the line against a very talented Caleb Plant, who was the former champion of that division, and we know that obviously he lost to Canelo. And whenever you lose to Canelo, there's always an asterisk there. Look, even just because you lose to Canelo doesn't make you a bad fighter, because that's the standard Canelo set. So I was very intrigued with this matchup. Benavidez is a power puncher, volume striker, pure aggression, and volume and pressure, whereas Caleb Plant's more technical, swift on his feet, quick movements, and touches up his opponents, sort of setting up shots. And look, to be honest, we got a mix of both in this fight. Uh, Going into the fight, I was actually slightly leaning towards Caleb Plant, to be honest, and boy was I wrong. Obviously the fight started. There was some up and down rounds to start with. They were very close, but Caleb Plant was doing really well. And then obviously towards the later part of the fight, I believe from the seventh round onwards, I remember Benavidez just took over, man. Like, and it was just one-sided punishment. It was one-way traffic, and like I was thinking, in the seventh, eighth round, Benavidez kept up that pace, kept up the pressure. Those power shots were coming in and landing. Two things I was wondering: A, can he sustain this? How long can he keep this pressure on? Like, is he able? Does he have the gas tank to take this on to the 12 rounds? Obviously, you're not fighting just another fighter. You're fighting a former world champion who's coming off a stunning victory. And man, he absolutely proved that he could, and he kept up that pressure, and that was one. And the second thing which I kept questioning myself, was how long is Caleb Plant's chin gonna hold? Because those shots, some of them were landing
Yeah,
flush. If you saw him after that 12th round, he was bloodied up. There was cuts above his eye. His nose was mashed up, and there was a lot going on. He took some straight punches. Obviously, we saw his ability to move reduce a lot as the fight progressed. Um, he did. I mean, Caleb Plant did throw some combinations. He showed his own sort of volume. However, like, it was no match for Benavidez's strength and volume, to be honest. And I think there was a clear victory. There was, by the time the bell rung at that 12 round mark, I was quite confident as to who would have won. There was, while there could have been some question and some kind of seesawing in the first few rounds. Towards the later part of that fight, it was definitely David Benavidez all day, and he proved to be the better fighter, uh, and showed why that he's an undefeated champion, interim champion at the moment. He's the interim super middleweight champion, right? So yeah, man, exciting fight, exciting time for boxing, and this fight couldn't have come at a better time. It sets the standard, sets the tone. Fight. The best should fight the best, and that's what it's all about. Caleb Plant obviously set a standard as well to say, look, you don't duck anyone. If you chase greatness and you come up short, that's all right. You still get respected, and that's been proven by obviously a lot of respect being shown towards Caleb Plant as well. And I'm sure he'll be back. He'll bounce back. But man, the big question is what's next.
Yep, and absolutely, you broke it down. I agree. But does this now set up the countryman battle with Benavidez? He's got to move up. He's got to take on that next challenge.
Man, so this leaves him like I mean, the call out said it all at the end of it. I mean, post fight. Just before I get to it, let me just quickly mention something. These two guys had a long lasting rivalry that went beyond each other and even into their families. There was a lot said. There were comments made that this beef will never be squashed. The line has been crossed. In terms of family and etc. All these things. I don't want to go into the details of it. So it was very. There was a lot of bad blood going into this fight. It obviously showed, like, and they left it all in the ring, right? And it was great to see the respect shown at the end towards each other. And I guess that comes from, two warriors stepping in there, leaving it all. It's hard not to respect, man. It's not hard not to respect going 12 rounds with another warrior and, testing that metal, right? Tasting blood. For both fighters, it's just they came out and it's just the be it the adrenaline, whatever it is, it's just they showed their respect, and the families came over as well. Like we saw Benavidez' dad, who was very animated, very vocal about this particular situation, and Caleb Plant, and not wanting to bury the hatchet, not wanting to squash the beef. Obviously come forward, embrace Caleb Plant, which was really great to see. At the end of the day, this is what this sport is all about. There's a lot of talk about how this is a violent sport, be it MMA, be it boxing. It's not like the other sports. You get injuries, but this is a violent sport where it's one-on-one combat, right? You go in there to hurt the other person.
Yep.
So in a sport like that, these kind of actions speak volumes because it shows why it's still a gentleman's sport where you show honor and integrity. So it was great to see. And obviously then comes to the post-fight interview. Benavidez was calm and composed and collected, and obviously made the ultimate call out. And that's the fight we all want to see. We were talking about great fights happening. There's one man. Arguably the pound for pound best ever, right? Canelo Alvarez, right? I just feel obviously he's fighting in May. Canelo is fighting Ryder in May. What do you call that? The Cinco de Mayo weekend, which is a big Mexican festival. I just can't help but think how big would it have been to get Canelo v Benavidez, two great Mexican boxers, two Mexican champs, right? On that Mexican festival, Cinco de Mayo weekend in Mexico, which has been home to some of the devastating, greatest boxers of all time, right? It would have been epic, but unfortunately, obviously, that's not to be because Canelo takes on Ryder that weekend. And then if Canelo is victorious, I would love to see the Benavidez and Canelo fight, man. Like, that's just the fight to make. You got the hype, you got everything, right? You got two great champions going at each other, and I want to see that. I want to see that fight. To be honest, I wouldn't even argue. I want to see that fight more than the Fury Usyk. To be honest, I'd like to see the Benavidez Canelo because obviously we saw him lose to Bivol, but that was Canelo went up a weight class, right? I think we went up 2 weight classes, whereas in this one it's very similar a weight range between him and Benavidez. So I'd love to see that contest. I'd like to see how it plays out.
Yeah, no doubt. I think you hit it with the holiday of course, that would be what the real purist fans want in terms of Canelo, Benavidez. But with boxing, like you make the bouts already, you sign the agreements, you don't know what's to happen. But surely that's the next thing after a Canelo possible win.
Yeah, I think Benavidez wanted to fight. Was it in September? Man, sign me up.
Mm,
September, October, November doesn't matter. Let's go. You know what I mean? Let's take it to the fight capital, right? Obviously, we're not going to get in Mexico. Let's get to the fight capital. T-Mobile Arena, or
yep,
MGM Grand. T-Mobile's for the
100%.
UFC. Sorry. Yeah, MGM Grand. Let's go. You know what I mean, man? Like it's gonna be it'll be a hell of a fight. I believe it'll be. Look. I hope they make it. I want to say I believe they will make it. Eddie Earn's quite good in terms of wanting to make those big fights, right? And obviously we know Eddie Earn manages Canelo, and if Benavidez is going out there and saying, "Look, I want this fight," like, yeah, let's get it on. You know what I mean? So that's it, man. That was it. It was a great weekend. Much to look forward to on that aspect of it and that weight category. But we're gotta talk about the talk of the town because right now you could even say boxing's booming, right? But this year boxing's been better than ever, right?
Mm,
It kind of is that year that you can almost say you're getting the fights that you wish for, right? Starting from the YouTube boxing all the way to pro boxing. We all wanted to see the Tommy Fury Jake Paul fight, and that kicked off the year, right? Like because obviously the vast majority wanted to see Jake Paul lose, and they wanted to see that Tommy Fury fight. It seemed to be like that elusive fight that can never be made, got made. And look, we thought we were so close to the Fury Usyk being made because that's what Look, be it boxing, be it MMA, one of the division. There's no other division in combat sports that will generate as much attention and excitement as the heavyweight division, and that's facts, right? That's facts. Now, it so happens that right now, boxing has some very exciting heavyweight champions, right? You got Fury, you got Usyk, and even forget about champions, even contenders. We got the Bronze Bomber, we got Andy Ruiz, right? We got Joe Joyce. So many exciting heavyweight boxers, in the scene. And right now is the time to make those big fights. We obviously saw one. We saw the Wilder Fury fight. We saw it 4 times. Am I right? 4 times, right? Is that correct?
three, I believe.
Three, sorry, three. My bad, three. Right. So we saw that 3 times, but obviously we'd like to see some other matchup. We want it to be mixed up a bit. We almost got the Fury Joshua until Wilder activated that rematch clause, right? Um, but look, I'm not complaining because we got a great fight. Right? We did get a great fight between Wilder and Fury. Um, but man, now we have an opportunity since Lennox Lewis. We haven't been able to see a unified champion in boxing, right? Lennox Lewis was the last to hold all belts,
Before.
right? And right now we got Usyk with 4 belts, and obviously Fury's got 1 belt, right? Let's make that fight. I just don't know what the hold up is, right? I mean, look, I can see why the hold up is, but also can't understand why you can't get past the differences and make this fight because it's going to generate a lot of money, right? Every single person, MMA or boxing, who loves to see combat sports will tune into this fight, right? Uh, Usyk's calling for this fight. Fury's obviously asked for this fight. Seems like Usyk's been a lot more uh, invested in wanting this fight. We never know. We don't know what's going behind closed doors. We only get to hear what the managers put out and what they say. And so from what we heard from Usyk's manager is that they've been it's been a difficult contract negotiation, and Fury's team has been adding additional clause and then a split percentage, etc. I did see a video out there where um, Fury was asking for a higher split in the pay, and then I saw Usyk's response say, "Yep, done, let's go." Right, and then still it hasn't been made. Now, originally the date that it was targeted for was the 29th of April. Look, seems like, definitely Frank Warren's come out and says it's not happening on that date. Um, there are widespread rumors that fight's totally done and they're looking for different opponents for Usyk. Bronze Bombers put his hand up for that. But man, it'll be very unfortunate if we can't get this fight made. Look, at the end of the day, yes, it's money and everything's a matter and all these kind of things, but it's also greatness, and not very many times do we get an opportunity to be able to witness greatness, to be able to, uh, pay way to witness greatness, and this is one of those opportunities, right? Either Fury or Usyk, they're both two absolute champions, right? Fury's looked invincible, right? And then Usyk's an extremely technical boxer. We saw what he did with Joshua twice, right? And he outclassed him, right? So we want to see that fight. We obviously want to see it. We hope it comes to fruition. CT, any thoughts on the Fury Usyk fight, man?
Yeah, like you said, in terms of boxing, it'd be history. So for us fans and purists, it's something we need to see. It's disappointing. I guess it's just a situation where that's the difference between boxing and UFC.
Yeah.
There's promotions involved. There's negotiations from both sides, which prevent things from happening, which is disappointing. I think it'll eventually happen, but I'm not so confident. Maybe not as confident as you are that it's going to happen this year.
Mhm.
Like you
Yeah.
said, there's other dudes in the woodworks waiting. I see Ruiz, you know, keep posting stuff tempting Fury, saying, "I forget him,
Yeah.
fight me." And
Yeah.
Usyk's probably going to be able to find another Joe Blow to
Yeah.
beat down. But I think it's a little bit of both sides. I think they both just don't want to put their record, or there's hesitation putting their records on the line for what they know is probably their best opponent. What do you think about that?
No, absolutely. Like I think they're each other's perfect match, right? They've met that match. That they're the toughest matchup for each other. Absolutely, right. I honestly feel, to be honest, Usyk's a lot more open to putting all those records on the line. Like I think he wants to challenge himself, right? I mean, no
What
one
makes
gave
you think
Usyk.
that?
The way the way he's been carrying himself, he asked for the fight. He was ringside for
Mm,
Fury Chisora too, right? I mean, these are indications of a person who wants the fight, right? With a war going on in his country, he was ringside asking for the fight. He was in Tyson Fury's face. At the end of that fight, Fury said, "Look, you know what? Usyk was here. This is it. He's getting in next. I'm gonna beat him down." But then, also, what I see is Fury's team sort of changing what's being requested. First, it was a split, and then I mean, I guess it got to a point where this is what we're hearing from the Usyk side, is that it got to an unreasonable point where it didn't make sense for someone holding four belts to agree to such a low uh, um, split, right?
mm,
But like I said again, we don't know what happens behind closed doors, right? Obviously, these negotiations were not made public. It also could be a tactic, man. Like I mean, you prolong the fight and you make them want more. It makes it all the more bigger, right? You know what I mean? Like it's something you desire for that, and then like, oh yeah, it's almost there now. It's not happening, and then boom, all of a sudden, now the excitement's tripled, right? Not only is it a great matchup, not only is it an opportunity to unify all the belts, but this also seems like one of those unicorn rare matchups where you can't seem to get it done. But hey, guess what? We finally got it done. So this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. So if you're a combat fan, tune in. You know what I mean? You never know. Like we'll see. Ultimately, man, it doesn't matter. This fight has my money easy, right? I'll drop my money to watch this fight any day. So yeah, look,
yep.
fingers crossed, right? And man, I almost forgot Andy Ruiz until you reminded me. Andy Ruiz is in the works. He's there as well. So like, there was a lot of players. I mean, there was talks about Bronze Bomber and Andy Ruiz. That's a good fight, right? I still want to see Joshua Ruiz. Joshua's fighting this weekend, right? I mean, obviously, this is he wants to start his comeback. This is his after the setback with Usyk, so he's fighting Franklin. Like who's no joke either, man. Like I mean, don't let the person's appearance fool you. Like he's I believe 21-1. Let me just double check that for you. Yeah, he's 21-1, man, right? And the only loss was to Dillian White. And guess what? And if you saw that fight, that was a very controversial decision, right? It was a very close fight. A lot of argument that Franklin actually won that fight. At worst, it should have been a draw, right?
Mm,
So he's not fighting no bum, right? So you need to remember that too. Um, so man, look, that's I'll definitely be watching that. And whenever Joshua fights, win or lose, like he's one of those guys with an it factor. I like to watch him fight. So we'll see. We'll see. We'll get to see Joshua's mentality. Is he going to be gun shy? Is he going to leave it out all there? Because sometimes when you have that zero, you feel to tend to protect it. Oh, I want to protect it. Once you lose it, you throw caution to the wind. Similar to what Wilder against Fury. In that third fight, he had already lost, right? And what? He threw caution to the wind. He just went at him. I mean, also that's the only way Wilder knows to fight, which cause is the cause for that excitement. So, man, yeah, look, I know Fury and George Joyce, they've been, mounting at each other too. George Joyce is gonna fight Zhang, the Chinese heavyweight. So, man, a lot going on in the heavyweight division, but we want this year to be the year that all the matchups, the great matchups happen.
Yeah, well, at least it's a better time, like you said. Boxing is back on the map, and
Yeah,
these big names, big name fighters do need to fight other big names. That's what gets pay-per-view sold. That's what gets bums on seats, eyes on screens, and none of this fluffing about, bouts, dropping out, negotiations, spilling over. We
yeah,
finally got to see the Fury, Tommy Fury, and Jake Paul,
Jack Paul.
take place, and there'll be
Yep,
more. At least he's a bit of a mover and shaker in that space. You know,
yep.
I'm sure we'll see another Jake Paul fight pretty soon. Maybe even before we see these two guys.
Probably, man. Most
Fight.
likely, we might see that rematch, or we might even see the KSI fight.
Yeah,
But hey,
they're making dough.
yeah,
You
make
know.
it go, man. They made. I think so the reporting was that they made about 700,000 pay-per-views,
Mm.
which is huge, right? For YouTube boxing, you can argue it's not really YouTube boxing because Tommy Fury was part of it, and he's obviously a pro boxer. And not from the
Exhibition.
YouTube scene. Yeah, it was an exhibition still. Like he was also like he got popular through reality TV and all that. Obviously, got that he's got that big Fury name, but yeah, like we spoke about that, he's sort of obviously starting his boxing career as well. Uh,
We also
uh,
have some updates with Tank Garcia, and
yeah,
yeah, and then also Cambosis.
Yeah, man. Like talk about high octane matchups, right? Exciting matchups, fights that people want to see, right? I can bet, like in their top three wish list, right? They'll have Garcia Davis. That's always been that fight that a lot of people have been wanting to. There were those four players at the time. You can even argue five after Cambosis shocked the world with Lopez beating Lopez. But before that, it was at Lopez, Haney, um, Garcia, and Davis, Tank Davis. They were the four like people wanted to see them fight each other. So now we're finally getting arguably the two of the best, right? I mean, Haney, I feel Haney is the rightful champion, right? He's extremely skilled, talented, technical. So yeah, well, you know, exciting fight, man. I think is it when is it? The 22nd of April, right?
Not far,
Yeah. So they,
less than a month.
uh, yeah, 22nd of April. They're fighting at a catch weight, 136 pounds. Obviously, they've shuttled through different weight classes because the boxing weight classes are so close together. There's been some controversy from Tank Davis's end, and then in the contracts there's a rehydration clause where I don't know, something along the lines of he can't drink water for 3 days. Garcia can't drink water for 3 days and can't eat and all that shit. But man, at the end of the day, right, we want to see this fight happen. We want both fighters to be healthy because we want the best version of each other, right? It's again two really exciting matchups. Speed and accuracy versus power, right? That's what we're gonna get to see, right? So yeah, man, look, let's a lot to look forward to there. I think Cambosis, as he announced his next fight.
Yeah, from what I
Looking
did
that up.
see, he was, either in negotiations or was eyeing his next matchup.
Yeah, I think there's talks about him potentially fighting in May, but I don't think an opponent has been announced yet.
Okay.
Um, Look, there's some big fights in that division coming up in May because You got Haney potentially fighting Lomachenko, man. That's another big fight. One can argue Lomachenko is a bit over, past his prime, but nonetheless a big name, and
Big.
Lomachenko has been showing out in his past fights as well, right? And look, let's not forget when he fought Lopez, he was getting better towards the later rounds. He was getting quicker. He was catching Lopez. He was getting the better of Lopez. So, like, look, those kind of fights, I'd like to see that fight sooner rather than later, because obviously the more time we take to see that, the more advantageous obviously it becomes for Haney. But like I said again, it's just you got to get these guys in their prime if you can. I mean, if not, like at least in the best possible state and fight each other. That's when you get these good fights. You know what I mean? So, yeah, man, exciting time for boxing.
Yep, no, 100%. Yep, it's been a pleasure to chop up the latest and stick around for more to come. Like DJ said, with the UFC coming up, we'll be obviously doing the recap, and then we'll
Hmm.
be previewing what's the next big pay-per-view on the Easter weekend, which is, yeah, talk about it. It's going to be
Oh, it's as
huge.
big as it gets.
Yeah. But yeah, for the boxing bonanza, stay tuned, yeah, because there's plenty more to talk about. If the Fury Usyk news changes, we'll be here to talk about it on That's a Tap for this episode, DJ.
We're all done, and that's a wrap.